Hello and welcome to Studio West in San Diego, California, the home base of DrumAmbition, and welcome to your first video lesson. In today's lesson, I'm going to talk you through playing a basic pop and rock drum beat. These are also known as 8th note grooves, and I'll explain what that means in just a few minutes. So I'm going to take you through to the studio and I'm going to walk you through step by step the process. There is also a downloadable PDF file which has all the individual components of what we're about to play, and you'll also see the notation on the screen. Let's go through to the studio, let's have some fun. So let's talk about these 8th note grooves that we're about to play. These form the basis of very common and popular pop and rock tunes, so they're very, very important grooves. Now the first thing that we're going to do is talk about how to count them, and then I'll show you how to play them on the drum set. So the first thing to understand is they're called 8th note grooves because there's 8 notes in the bar, and we count them 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now really important here, we don't count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you'll see why in a few minutes when we start to put it together. So the first thing we're going to do is take your right hand and we're going to play on the hi-hat, and we're going to play every 8th note. Keep it slow, count out loud, that's really important. And I'm going to play 2 bars, 2 measures for you. Remember, bars and measures are the same thing. Here we go. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now I know we're really early on here, but it's a good idea to take a moment, take a pause and practice that, because counting out loud and playing is your first lesson in coordination. Very important. So the next thing we're going to do is add the snare drum on the 2 and the 4. This is going to be our left hand, so our right hand's going to rest, but we're going to stay in the playing position. And again, if we count out loud, we keep it slow, it's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again, I played 2 bars for you there, so take a moment and practice that, and then when you're ready to move on, you can start thinking about adding the bass drum. So now we're ready to add the bass drum, and we're going to add the bass drum on the 1 and the 3. Now when you're playing the bass drum, it's very, very important to remember the technique that you learnt, and we talked about that in the posture and setup video, so be sure to refer to that if you need to. So we're going to play the bass on the 1 and 3. It's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Your hands are rested, they're not doing anything at that point, they're just staying in the playing position. Now take a moment and practice those 3 individual parts: hi-hat, snare, bass, and then when you're ready, we'll try and put them all together. When we do that, playing slowly, it's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And notice there how I played 4 bars a time, or 4 measures of time. Now, if you tried that and, like most people, it was very difficult for it all to come together first, then don't worry. Try perhaps playing with the hi-hat and the snare first. So the hi-hat on every 8th beat, snare drum on 2 and 4. Just rest your right foot until you're ready to bring it in. It's quite common, and this is going to be challenging the first time you play it. Now, just so you can see, I'm going to play this a little faster for you, just so you can see where we can take this. It's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, that was 4 bars of time there, or 4 measures of time. And if you want to hear it just a little bit faster for reference, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I demonstrated it faster for you there just so you can get an idea of where you can take this beat. But I have to say it's really, really important in these early stages to keep it slow. Speed is nothing but a byproduct of control, and you have to build the control first. And another thing is, timekeeping is really, it's the most important thing that we do playing the drums. If we can't keep a steady, consistent beat, then it doesn't matter if we have the best technique in the world. It's really the most important thing. So be mindful to keep it slow, count out loud, do all those good things, and that will help you along the way. So while we're talking about timekeeping, some common mistakes that people make when they're playing these beats for the first time. And the first is not counting out loud. And at the risk of repeating myself, and you will hear me say this a lot in these videos, it's super important to count out loud. It's important because, well, number one, it helps the brain coordinate which limb is playing which note. When you count out loud, you can hear if you're making a mistake. So, for example, you might be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 instead of 1 and 2 and it might seem a small thing, but if you do that, you're placing the snare drum on beat 3 and 7, and you don't really want to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, for example. So there's also lots of benefits in counting out loud when you're reading and learning to read music, and you really should watch the reading notation videos of DrumAmbition for that also. The other thing I mentioned is speeding up. Be careful not to speed up. Try and stay at the tempo that you started at. As people become excited and as they become more competent on these beats, there is a tendency to start at one speed and speed up. And again, as I said to you a few moments ago, timekeeping is our #1 priority. And then one other thing to watch out for is when you're playing this beat for the first time, if you miss a snare on the 2 and 4, or you miss a bass drum on the 1 and 3, it really doesn't matter. Keep playing, but what you shouldn't do is try and add the beat if you've missed it. For example, let's say I missed the snare on the 2 and 4, and I go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so as you can see, I missed the beat on the 4, but I tried to add it. Well, music is continuous, so if you've missed the beat, the moment's passed, don't try and add it, it doesn't matter, you'll get it on the next time round. So now we're going to go back to the control room, and I'm going to give you some hints on how to practice. We're also going to talk about bringing the metronome in and how important that is, and give you some more hints on how to develop these grooves. So I hope you found that video interesting and informative. Let's talk a little bit about how we're going to practice. Now, the first thing is just spend time working on the coordination, playing slow, counting out loud, everything we talked about in that video. And eventually you'll feel happy with playing those basic 8th note grooves. That will take some time, but the good news is that 15 minutes of focused practice per day will give you some good results. And if you can do more, great, but do try and look at this at least 15 minutes per day. Now, when you're ready, with the emphasis of when you're ready, we're going to use this metronome. Now, a metronome, you can use a physical metronome like this. You can use a smartphone application, or there's metronomes online as well. And the metronome measures music speed in beats per minute. So it's a good practice tool because it will help you develop good timekeeping, but you can also measure your progress as well. So if you're at 50 beats one week, and then you go up to 55 beats per minute another week, and then you're up to 60 beats per minute, you can see the progress. So I recommend that you start at 50 beats per minute. That's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and remember, the metronome is giving you quarter notes. So make sure that you're counting in 8th notes like we talked about in the video. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, at first, the metronome is going to seem like a distraction, so don't use it until you feel that you're absolutely ready. But when you do feel ready, by all means, use it. Now, don't forget that you have your downloadable PDF, the glossary of terms, and if you still need help, remember I'm here for you, support@drumambition.com. Please feel free to email me. And in the next lesson, we're going to talk about how we can add some extra bass drum notes to your 8th note pattern to give you some more musical options. In the meantime, have fun with your practice. Thanks for checking in, and thanks for using DrumAmbition.